So let's dive into food for a hot moment here, because so much of the food we eat, we don't think of it from the perspective of it actually will give us energy or no energy, but often we don't even think about it from the perspective of it can affect our teeth. I mean, like I've been in a lot of nutrition conversations, and a lot of people don't think of the food I eat is going to affect my teeth, with maybe the exception of sugar. I mean, we all know sugar creates cavities, but there's one category of food that actually is worse than sugar. And it's one of those categories of foods that you may be eating on a regular basis. So on this video, I want to unpack this category of food and help you figure out how to eat good versions of these foods so that it supports a really healthy microbiome in your mouth and really healthy, beautiful teeth and stops those cavities. So here we go. Let's break this down. First, you have to remember that one of the things that happens with sugar is that it starts to wear away the enamel of your teeth, making it more susceptible to a cavity. So sugar by itself is definitely an enemy to the teeth. But what you may not know is that there is an enzyme that gets secreted when we chew called amylase. So funny thing about digestion is that digestion actually starts in the mouth. This is a huge concept I used to teach my patients all the time, because we were so focused in my clinic on repairing the microbiome of the gut. And most people just think, oh, it's whatever hits the gut first. And I was always trying to educate my patients, say, no, it's actually what you're chewing in your mouth that matters. This is the pre-digestion place. And if you get that part down right, if you keep the microbiome of your mouth right, if you are supporting a healthy mouth, then you are supporting healthy digestion. And what's so interesting about this enzyme amylase is that when we eat starches, it actually will convert that starch into sugar and will act just like sugar. And there are slow digesting starches and there are fast digesting starches. And it is these fast digesting starches which act as negatively on your mouth as sugar does. So let's dive into what those fast-acting starches are and how you can avoid them. And then I want to show you some really good alternatives. So I want to read you a couple of statistics here. This one is really interesting. It's a 2019 meta-analysis. And for my science hounds out there, and people who are just learning about the whole science world, I want to remind you that a meta-analysis is in a study, well, it's a study, I put it in quotes, that actually they looked at a ton of other studies and they brought them all together. So a meta-analysis is actually a really interesting insight into, or lens to look at different parts of the human body. So I'm a fan of meta-analysis. So, but this one showed that eating fast digesting starches, and these are, by the way, starches that digest in under 20 minutes, caused a large increase in cavity risk. Now, here are the starches, and I'm sorry if some of these are the ones you love, but first one, potato. So it's interesting, we've talked about this in other videos, that even though this is a white potato, and we have sweet potatoes, even though we call them both potatoes, a sweet potato is actually lower on the glycemic index, meaning it doesn't create so much of a sugar response, meaning it doesn't have as much starch. So white potatoes are higher in starch and higher on the glycemic index. So they are one of the fast digesting starches that can lead to cavities. So for my potato lovers out there, you may want to do it every once in a while, not every day. Okay, another one, bananas. So although I love bananas to support progesterone, I wrote about that in Fast Like a Girl, and I've also written about it in Eat Like a Girl, which is now available for pre-order. They are a fast-acting starch, and they will lead to more cavities. So pay attention to that. The other two ones that I want to point out that a lot of people, hopefully if you're following me, you're learning to not eat this, but are white bread. These highly processed foods like white bread, of course, sugars, the crackers, desserts, all of that. So these starches that are digest very fast in your body are also creating this reaction in your mouth, contributing to cavities. Oatmeal's another one. I know for my oatmeal lovers, especially the instant oatmeal, and then the instant oatmeal, they add sugar to it. So again, when we're looking at these foods, the first thing I want to tell you is they're not great for your metabolic health. If they're fast digesting, that's not good either, because that means you're going to have this huge insulin spike. But they're also contributing to cavities. So I can tell you as a mother who didn't like spending money at the dentist on cavities for my children, if I had kids again, which thank God I don't, but I would be paying attention to these foods beyond just sugar if you want to minimize your dental bill and the pain and suffering that goes along with filling cavities. Other things to look at are, and I mentioned some of these, are pastas, white rice, and we talked about instant oatmeal. Now, this same meta-analysis said that if we move away from the fast digesting starches and we move to the slow digesting starches, that there was no negative impact on our teeth. So again, less starch also means less conversion to sugar. That means yay for the pancreas. That's a yay for metabolic health, but it's also a yay for the mouth. So there's a little overlap in what I'm teaching you today. It's like, yes, stay away from this for your teeth, but I also want you to stay away from them because they're not great for your overall metabolic health. But the carbs that are really good for your metabolic health and are really good for your teeth are things as simple as brown rice can be one, or a whole grain rice, or even quinoa. I'm a huge fan of quinoa. It's a progesterone building food as well. It has a lot more protein in it. Squashes. So love squashes, all kinds of squashes. Butternut squash is my favorite, but even acorn squash is great. And also really good for building progesterone and really good for making sure that you don't build cavities in your mouth. And then we have some other things like carrots, sweet potatoes. I talked about that. Lentils. You're going to see in Eat Like a Girl, this book is now out for pre-order if you haven't ordered it yet. You're going to see a ton of recipes that are involving beans and lentils. I have a whole plant-based track in there that's good for both omnivores and plant-based. And beans are really phenomenal for progesterone and for building hormones, but they're also a great starch that won't build cavities. So they're really got a lot of unique qualities to them. And the fact that they support great digestion, mouth digestion, is just another win. We also know that berries, chickpeas, those are garbanzo beans, are also really great starches, not only for hormones, but for preventing overall cavity proliferation of cavities in your mouth. Now, if you want to even go one step further, so let's say you're one of those people that's like, I just get cavities no matter what happens. And I've seen this before in patients who are just constantly going to the dentist and getting cavities despite the fact that they're not eating sugar. So there was a really interesting 2017 study that found that people who switched from a low-carb diet with plenty of healthy fats, they decreased their gum inflammation and plaque by more than 50%. So if you're spending too much money at the dentist on cavities, if you're tired of your kids getting cavities all the time, what if you switch? And you don't have to switch all the time. Remember, I'm not a fan of doing one diet the same way over and over again. You could periodically switch into a low-carb diet, and you could start to bring down this inflammation and plaquing. I will tell you that in Eat Like a Girl, which is coming out soon, I talk a lot about carb cycling. You know, we've talked a lot about protein cycling. I've talked a lot in this book about carb cycling, and I've given you so many great recipes on foods that you can eat that support your overall body health. And when I look at this carb cycling idea in Fast Like a Girl, I called it ketobiotic was one food style, and the other was called hormone feasting. They're both great ways to approach food to balance hormones. And in that ketobiotic style, I would add that extra benefit now of supporting great teeth and great digestion in the mouth, because that's where digestion starts. Okay, I got to interrupt this video because I have a free guide for you so you can master fasting. It's called A Beginner's Guide to a Fasting Lifestyle, and all you've got to do is click here and you can jump right in. Lastly, there's another study, and I love these studies. I have a team of researchers who look at different current studies and bring them to me. And so in this one, it's a 2020 study concluded that a keto diet is especially good for preventing cavities because it changes your oral microbiome and it kills off bacteria in your mouth that will actually create cavities. So when we look at the keto diet overall, we're like, oh, wow, bring that starch level down, bring that carbohydrate level down, bring the sugar level down, and now we are bringing inflammation down and plaquing down. But what this other study, this 2020 diet said is when you do all of that, that you're also starving the bacteria in the mouth that create cavities. So we've talked about this a lot when we look at the sugar burner system and this whole metabolic switch that I've been teaching you all here, that when we look at this sugar burner system, there's so many things that we need to be doing over there for not only our body, but hopefully you understand now, for our mouth. And digestion begins in the mouth. And this is really why Eat Like a Girl was born, was I wanted to create a book that teaches you how to master the sugar burner system. And so that book is out for pre-order now. More importantly, cavities are within your control. And the foods you eat are going to make or break your dental bill. So if you want to avoid these cavities, then make sure you're going with the slow digesting carbohydrates like I mentioned, and that you understand it's more than just brushing and flossing. Brushing and flossing is great, but from a lifestyle perspective, we need to now have this conversation about the foods you eat can either contribute to poor health in the mouth, or they can help and aid in great health, oral health, that ultimately great oral health will support great gut health, which is what we need to be able to break down hormones and be able to get high amounts of neurotransmitters and support a healthy immune system. So there's a lot to the mouth that you should know, and the foods you eat are making and breaking your mouth. So as always, I hope that helps. And put in the comments, this one's going to be really interesting. Put in the comments if when you switched over to this fasting lifestyle and you started to splash in a little more of the ketobiotic diet, if you went to the dentist and the dentist said, hey, your mouth looks amazing. Because sometimes the switch of a diet, going into these fasted states, all of that can be a really powerful tool for preventing expensive dental bills. So, as always, I hope that helps. If you love this video, I did a great video called Should You Eat Eggs Every Day for Breakfast? So you need them to make things like serotonin and dopamine, the neurotransmitters that give us a good mood balance, make us happy, make us calm, give us joy and satisfaction. The precursors for those neurotransmitters are all inside this little egg.